Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our study of the second chapter of the Old Testament prophet Joel. And Joel, we find out, is from Judah, which is the southern nation of Israel. And Joel perhaps was looking in his rearview mirror just a little bit when he remembered back to the portion of the point in time when King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon swept through Judah, devastating the land and taking his fellow Judeans into captivity, in which they spent about 70 or so years. The time of exile was horrible for them, and in reflection, he believed that this was a punishment from God that had occurred because of the hundreds of years of the people ignoring God's call on their lives. And so in this book of Joel does gives us some very severe and vivid imagery to tell us a little bit about what the day of the Lord, this judgment day, was like and could be like in the future. In chapter 1, he describes it like a plague of locusts that come and just sweep through the land and take everything out. And in the second chapter, our chapter for today, it's more like a human army that comes through and does the similar sort of thing. But I want to focus today on verses 12 and 13. So I'm going to read them for you right now. Joel chapter 2, verses 12 and 13. He says, "But now turn to me while there is still time. Give me your hearts. Come with fasting, weeping, and mourning. Don't tear your clothing in your grief, but tear your hearts instead. Return to the Lord your God, for he is merciful and compassionate, slow to get angry, and filled with unfailing love. He is eager to relent and not punish." Notice what Joel says first. He says, first of all, there's still time. There's still time. And I think that's a good word for all of us today, that we think it's too late, and God's saying, no, there's still time. And in Joel's day, he used this image of tearing one's clothes that people would often use to outwardly show that they were repenting and they were filled with grief. And it was a sign that said, look at me, I so want you to see how sorry I am. So I'm ripping my clothes. But the Lord says, better yet, he says, I would like a repentant heart. He said, tear your hearts, not your clothes. And this reminds me so much of Jesus' parable in Luke chapter 15, where the wayward son comes back to the compassionate, loving father. The young man had wasted so much of his life on looking for meaning in all the wrong places, and he'd gone through so much endured so many destructive consequences. In the midst of it all, there's this picture of this loving and compassionate, merciful father who's there waiting for him. In fact, he runs toward him when the son turns around and comes to his senses. And it's just a sign of Joel's words and Jesus' words are signs of God's commitment to us, his faithfulness, and though we will still continue to walk through troubles in this world, he says ultimately he will be faithful and full of unending love. And that's all that really matters, isn't it? So wherever you find yourself today, always remember those words. Return to the Lord your God, for he is merciful and compassionate, slow to get angry, and filled with unfailing love. Have a wonderful day.
If these devotional videos are helpful to you, subscribe to our channel and click the notification button so you know when we post a new video. And of course, please share them with others.